All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So my plan today is to look at a couple bigger name tickers than I normally do. I kind of live in the smaller, more parabolic ones, right? But we're going to look at far more established companies and we're going to see kind of the same trend across them all right? And I think more than anything, though I'm going to be speaking about the individual stocks and the individual charts, my real big focus is actually going to be the indices. And I think it's going to be layered within it. Maybe I'll do its own little chapter, all right? But right now things are a little on the hectic side. I don't know what word to say, right? By no means am I here screaming crash, screaming, big crazy fears and doom stuff. No, no, no. And I'll show why on the further out views, I would say. But there's definitely been some concerns, and really it seems like, and that's why I'm starting on this chart, tomorrow is going to dictate what comes next. All right, so tomorrow after hours, you can see that's this day right here on Wednesday the 26th. That is when Nvidia's earnings will come out. It's after hours, so my best guess around 6 o'clock Eastern, whatever that converts to, wherever you're watching this, right? By 6 o'clock Eastern, couple hours, 2 hours after market closes, we will have an idea of what's going to follow. All right. I had a couple people say SNCI probably matters because they have to give some info. They're obviously in the same chipset sector. They're doing the same AI stuff. Look, to me, Nvidia's in its own world. And hey, maybe it's a little too cavalier to say, but I don't think Nvidia's in any sector. I think it is its own beast, and we have so many times live and died by Nvidia earnings. I really think tomorrow's going to be the big kicker of it, all right? So, let's just look at them real quick and then I will give some deeper thoughts shortly, right? But we're looking at the NASDAQ right now. We are clearly under the 8, the 20, and the 50, and we actually closed for the first time under the 100 moving average line. All right. When we look at the S&P 500, we are very much under the 8 and the 20. We didn't lose the 50 on Friday, so Monday was actually the first one under it. Today is an arguable candle. All right, for some, it actually could be good enough to confirm it. For some, it might not be too definitive. Like in my world, this is kind of a doji, right? It's not picturesque like this, but yeah, this isn't necessarily definitive to me. I think what I'm seeing at the minimum with the S&P 500 is just like the NASDAQ, we're basically at or under or around that 100 moving average, that blue line, right? And then lastly, when we look at the DJ30, the Dow Jones Industrial, exact same thing, and actually a little bit louder to me, right? This has been living at the 100 for the last 3 days, okay? And if you've watched my last couple weeks of videos, one annoying thing to me was that these three indices, these are the major indices to most people, these three are what the market, what that word means, right? These three were very much not in unison, right? I really don't remember exactly, but I think this view is good enough. This is what the Dow Jones looks like. This thing started to crash really early and it started to recover really early. When we look at NASDAQ, the crash by no means was as drastic as the Dow Jones, and really the recovery was never, like, the uptrend was never that big. This thing was basically up and down that entire way. When we look at the S&P 500, this did a mini mimic of the Dow Jones, but definitely not as hardcore. And then you can kind of say this actually did a better uptrend than the Dow Jones, right? And again, I think the moral of all three, and hey, one more time, this isn't as choppy as NASDAQ just was, right? So overall, when you're looking at this, what, 3 month view from December to January to February till basically we're knocking on the door of March, right? In that 3 month window, it wasn't very unison across the three. We are now at a place, literally as of today, all three of them have hit a unison point. They're all at, near, under, or just above that 100 moving average. And like I started the video off, we're a day away from NVIDIA. right? NVIDIA earnings specifically, right? So to me, it's lining up. They've been very unbalanced. The point that matters, because look, I said it in the Discord this morning, and I'll flash it real quick as I say it. Look, I am not that like I don't stay up to date with politics. Where am I looking? This is the one. Where's ticker? Goodness, sometimes I do silly things. That was a silly one. Look, I really don't stay up to date with politics. I really don't know micro and macro economics. I don't know what's going on in this country over here and how it. There was some German election, if I'm not mistaken. I saw a couple days ago. I just saw a quick headline. Again, I have no idea who won, how that's gonna affect here. Does that person like Trump, hate Trump? Like, all of it matters, right? I don't know a lot, but what I see right now, oh man, this is a technical setup for a critical point, all right? And again, hey, let me know if you disagree, if you think I'm a little too cavalier with Nvidia, but oh man, with this earnings tomorrow and all of them lined up, either all three of the major markets will use the 100, a very strong line, the second to strongest of all five, right? They will use the 100 to bounce up and recover, or they will lose it, they will go to the 200, and realistically, we will start wondering if we're going to lose it and so on, all right? So the last thing I'm going to do on this opening thoughts, because I do want to emphasize it one more time. Look, I'm not saying crash. All right. Even if I talk zoom out, even if we say we're going to come down to the 200, look, as you zoom out in the weekly, we've only lost, and we haven't even lost it yet. This is literally the first week that we're under it, right? But we still got the 50, we still got the 100, we still got the 200. Obviously, I don't want to fall all the way down there, right? But the daily is so much faster of a view. When you're zooming out to the weekly, when you're zooming out to the monthly, there are like, what is scary, what is real scary are those moments where we lose all the moving averages, and that really hasn't happened, all right? Now, don't get me wrong, we've seen the COVID scares, and going from up here all the way to down here could be a scary thing. And hey, we're at a place where we're up here, and I don't know if, like, I don't know yet, but what I know is this: we still haven't lost the 8 moving average on the monthly, right? I have no reason to start thinking about the 20 just yet, let alone the 50 just yet, if we're talking a mimic of that right there, right? So there are still a lot of lines in play as you zoom out. Obviously, it looks scarier on the daily, right? But there's a lot that has to happen before extreme words are said, all right? All of that said, man, Nvidia will very much, in my opinion at least, expedite or slow down what happens next. All right, so cool. I like that there. Before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms, but for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So I'm not feeling 100%. Hopefully the energy's still there in this video, and yeah, let's get into it. So I'll come back to NVIDIA because I think I spent a good amount of time on it, but like, let's look at Microsoft real quick, right? Microsoft at the moment is actually below all 5 and heading on down, right? We're actually seeing a death cross on the 50 below the 200. It actually looks like the 50 might be death crossing the 100 as well. I see earnings is somewhere down here, maybe the first week of March, give or take. It looks like roughly the 6th, if I had to guess. Hopefully earnings can save it, and like I said in the beginning, hopefully Nvidia can have good earnings and maybe help recover this a bit, right? But as I look at Microsoft, this is definitely a lot more extreme than we're seeing on the NASDAQ, right? It's a lot more extreme than we're seeing on the S&P 500, right? So this is a little bit of a harder anomaly right here. You know, it's weird that they have that there and then they're showing this. It looks like they actually had earnings right here. So maybe I'm saying something incorrect. It looks like earnings actually might have happened right there. It was a hard gap down and we're seeing the reaction. That actually might be why we are doing worse than the indice. I don't know what that's supposed to be right there. Maybe some sort of typo. I'm going to come to the weekly just to kind of, oh man. So I say, oh man, because look, I see a lot of green, green, green to basically where we're sitting, right? Like, let me just roughly that candle. Yeah, we're already below that, right? So all of and really I feel like I could move this line down to the 200, but I'll just leave it there. That alone is green, green, green to a pretty scary red, red, red. We must hold 390 on Microsoft. Where's 390 on the daily? Yeah, I mean 390 is probably like right here, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, 390. I think that's the important one to hold. I'm going to delete that line because that line doesn't matter right now. If we lose 390, look, the weekly is basically lining up to this line. And like I just said, I feel like I can lower it just a little bit, right? So you lose 390, I would expect 340s on Microsoft, all right? When we come into Alphabet, Google, again, a big reason why you can't call it FANG anymore, right? Like Google's now, the G is gone, it's another A. It looks like same thing as Microsoft, actually. It looks like earnings were right here. Again, I don't understand why you're showing me an earnings next month when this one was right here. That's way too close. Not even a three month window. Again, whatever. I have no idea, right? That's a scary gap down. Obviously doing just a little bit better than Microsoft, but obviously it's doing significantly worse than the indices, right? And when we're talking, look, I don't know what company 2, 3, 4, and 5 are in most people's opinion. I think Nvidia is pretty much number one for everyone, right? But these are two big names to say the least, far more important than any random little ticker that I talk about, right? And to see both of them basically at the 200 or significantly below all five of them, oh man, that's a scary, scary sight. And again, what I'm more looking at is these are like I use boat analogies often, right? These are two heavy anchors. And we are, I think, very lucky that this drop there, as well as the basically exact same drop there, didn't bring the NASDAQ way lower. I am very, very surprised that that's actually the case right there. You know what I mean? And I think, again, it just really, really emphasizes NVIDIA is going to be the final anchor. Or it's going to be strong enough to be the cutters and cut that chain and let those drop and forget those. Let's go off the NVIDIA current kind of thing. You get what I'm saying, I hope, right? But oh man, it is crazy to look at just those two and see the devastation. And there isn't much work. Look at Meta, right? Meta, which I mean, looking at this thing, actually had really good earnings, had a beautiful uptrend on the earnings, and all of a sudden this, look, I'm seeing the Meta layoff headlines, right? I know this sounds like a horrible thing to say as a human, but that's actually a good thing for the stock, right? As you lay people off, your operating expenses get lower. As your expenses get lower, it's going to make all the other numbers look better because all of a sudden you can say, hey, my revenue compared to my expenses look a lot better because we just slashed it, right? From there, there's the obvious green, green, green to red, red, red. It kind of seems like that's probably the strongest point, and that's basically the 100 moving average, right? We haven't lost the 50. By no means have we lost the 50. And I think in a lot of ways, Meta reminds me of that S&P 500 chart. It's definitely the 50 instead of the 100, right? But we see an interesting recovery on the S&P 500 today. We see an interesting recovery on Meta today, right? Meta is a little closer to what the NASDAQ looks like, right? This is around, oh no, that's incorrect. NASDAQ's at the 100, right? Duh. So this one's Meta's actually doing better than the Nasdaq, as opposed to Microsoft and Google that are doing worse than the Nasdaq. And again, you can kind of see how those balance together, right? That the Nasdaq's essentially a giant ETF, right? So look, just looking at this, it really seems like the 100 moving average might be a realistic place that this comes to. Maybe you can use that 630-ish, 625 is roughly where I'm clicking right now as a maybe point, but yeah, I think there's a real reason to think that this is going to come to to 615 right there, actually, unless NVIDIA does good, unless NVIDIA can recover. Because again, the indices are the ocean, all right? And believe me, Meta is a giant, giant boat. It's essentially the Titanic, right? It's a beautiful, well-built machine. Problem is, when you're starting to get this choppy, and all of a sudden you're getting these big, big bad waves down. Oh man, that could be. And again, I think the back thought is we still like, I don't know if Nvidia is going to do good or not, right? Like, I'm not that smart. I have no crystal ball. They do well often, and as much as I think we all want to go into it saying Nvidia could do well again, I think it's a very 50-50 could, and hey, if they could and they do well, yeah, 100 moving average is a strong line. 100 moving average is a place you can bounce and get those three back and for sure retake 20K, right? But oh man, the concern with those three not looking fantastic puts so much more pressure on Nvidia. Let's go away from tech a little bit. Still part of FANG and FLX, Netflix. This is not as tech heavy, even though it's obviously a lot of tech, right? This is a little bit more consumer right here, right? Like, this is just people at home. Are they willing to pay $20 a month for for entertainment, right? And look, Netflix isn't looking bad at all. It's actually still relatively stronger than I think any of those other ones that we saw. It's definitely way higher over the 50 than any of those other ones that we saw, right? But even this thing is starting to take a hit a little bit after what looked like a very nice earnings gap up and continuation, right? So as we steer a little bit away from those like uglier tech stocks, like Walmart is another one. WMT, right? Walmart? WMT. You can see I struggle with the more established ones because I don't look at them as much, right? But yeah, this definitely had some sort of earnings reaction right here. Today was a nice, interesting candle. And it's funny because I actually just mentioned looking at the dollars, looking at Dollar Tree, which is actually setting up pretty interestingly right there. And then looking at Dollar General, DG. That's another interesting little setup right there, right? Doesn't look like either have had earnings relatively recently, so just maybe keep that in the back pocket. But, Walmart is a big name, and Walmart, I can't necessarily tell just yet what's going on because I see this earnings in the 50 moving average, right? So maybe Walmart wasn't a good one, kind of takes away from a little bit of my momentum and steam, but at least tech focus, man, it's again, I think riding on NVIDIA, and either all three indices that are now in unison bounce back together or they don't. You know what I mean? So NVDA, let's just talk about NVIDIA real quick because that's where we'll end it. Either we fall to 112 or we're coming right there, or we're coming to 140. I actually think that there's no in between. I don't think 135 will slow it down. I don't think this cluster of moving averages will slow. If it's good, the 200 moving average is such a strong line, we can do crazy support jumps up. If it's bad, we will very quickly come down to this support right here. Where are we to this? We're basically at the forward split. Yeah, I like my line. I do like my line. Yeah, I like my line. Maybe I would actually even lower it to there. Because now it's the bottom of the gap up and it's actually even the bottom of this. I think you fall to 110 or you jump to 140. And I think more than anything is the sustained trend that will build. Either we fall this way and keep falling for the next 3 months until the next earnings come, or we gap up. Now, I'm not as confident that the gap up will sustain up because, again, there are some external things going on, right? There are tariff and war things, right? There are some consumer sentiment things and inflation and micro and macroeconomics, right? And there are things that might stop the uptrend continuation as much as we would like. But hey, if this can at least take care of the technical need, that's not a bad place to be trading. Because I'll be honest, look, I never tell you where my money is. I at least do my best, right? Like, what chart reader dude buys and sells should have no impact on yours. I promise you that, all right? I'm holding nothing. I'm holding nothing on my account. I'm holding nothing on my wife's account. And truth be told, I will probably adjust my 401k based on what NVIDIA does. Because what I'm expecting is either, because I know I mentioned this, look, since 2023, let's even just look from right here, because this is the point where we broke it. There's a lot of lines, and I apologize. Since 2023, we've never come anywhere near the 20 moving average. There was one slip below the 8 that quickly recovered. I don't know if we're going to come all the way to the 200 to the 20. I think that's a little extreme, but I think a slip below the 8 moving average to maybe 17.9, I think that's realistic. And then from there, we'll see what happens after that. Where's 17.9 on the weekly? That's a lot of weeks away, don't get me wrong, but it but then I'm just like cavaliering the 50. I think 17.9 is actually close enough to this 50 that's basically at 18. Look, either we're going to come down to the 50 moving average on the weekly, or we're going to smash 20K and go. And again, I know 401k stuff is a lot longer time frame, and I don't know if I should really mention that or not, but yeah, like I said, I think if Nvidia does poorly, there's more reason to think a downtrend will sustain. If Nvidia does well, oh, it'll take care of a lot of good for sure, but there's still things that might impact it. I think that's the last place I'll end it. All right. I'm not feeling well. Hopefully this was valuable. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so much.